Hey, this is the Daily Overpass. My name is Eric and I make apps. Now today, I want to talk about hard work. Okay, hey guys, so today I'm obviously not in the office. I'm at home in my backyard, in my back garden, as we say in England. I have some appointments today, so it wasn't really time to go back in. I mean, I was already in the office this morning for, the morning, a couple of hours when I'm in my gym clothes and all this kind of stuff, but I got a few appointments, so just thought and it's if you can see here, it's such a beautiful day. The sun is shining, and I thought this is a perfect opportunity to just go outside, right? So it's really nice. So what I want to talk today a little bit about is work, because because right now I feel a little bit guilty for sitting in the back garden. So let's talk about work, right? As a father, as a family person, I'm always worried about whether or not I'm working too much and not spending enough time with family. If you have a family, you probably think the same thing, or at least I would hope so, right? There's always so much to do at work-wise, or whether your own company or where you're working, whatever. And there's always, so much to do at home. You can always spend more time at home. There's never like a perfect amount of time to spend at home. It's always, it's never enough. It's never enough in either way, right? So you're always split between the two. At least, that's my opinion. And there's this the old adage is, no one ever no one ever lied on their deathbed and said, "I wish I'd worked more." Right? And I completely agree with that. It's no one ever did. No one ever, gets to the end of their life and thinks, I wish I'd worked more. There's always, I wish I'd traveled more. I wish I'd taken more opportunities, all this kind of stuff. But I do think that, some people have been on their deathbed and says, I wish I had applied myself more. I wish I had taken more opportunities. I wish, when the goal was in sight, I wish I'd gone for the kick. I wish I had worked harder, maybe not more, right? And I know this, for firsthand experience. I met lots of people in my life, and a lot of times this person is me, where you think, I wish I'd applied myself more in school, or I wish I had applied myself more in this job, or I had this perfect opportunity to learn this technology in this job, and all I did was complain about something, all this kind of stuff. So it's, hard work, while it's easy to belittle it and say that nobody's ever wished they worked more, right? I'm sure a lot of us wish we worked harder. We all have opportunities in sight that we wish we had taken, right? And it's difficult to explain that. I mean, it just becomes a habit, right? Like I told you before, I get up 4:30 in the morning. I go into the office. I work a few hours. I go to the gym, and then I go home, see the kids off to school, go back into the office, and then go home. Sometimes I cook, so it's my turn to cook sometimes. I'm the worst cook in the world. God, you guys, I wouldn't invite you over, but you guys, that wouldn't be a favor, right? So and then sometimes after that, I'll go back into the office, and this is somebody who works for himself, right? So it might be client work, it might be, I feel like my own apps have been neglected, all this kind of stuff. But so sometimes I feel a bit guilty for working too much, and sometimes I'll sneak away on the weekends, right? And when I say sneak away, I mean just nobody's asking me to stay, but it's like I just feel guilty for it, because that's what you do. There's never enough in either area, right? So whenever I feel guilty, I have to remember the fact that I used to work when I first came to the UK. My first IT job was in an investment bank, and it was like 2 hours away, Canary Wharf. So I would get on 4 trains, so 1 train and then 3 underground trains, because it was before the Jubilee line opened, for those of you from London. So I'd go to Canary Wharf, and it would take 2 hours on a good day, right? A lot of times it would take longer. A lot of times, signal failures, all this kind of stuff. Trains have loads of problems, right? And I would get there like at 8, and I'd work till like, I would very rarely leave before 8 p.m. But a lot of times it was, 9 or 10, or 11. And sometimes it was like, racing to catch the last train home, right? And I worked more than most people did, right? But I kind of felt I had something to prove, because it was my first big job. It was my first office job, my first IT job. It was like, I felt like, I have to make this work. And every so often, someone will walk by, and I just had a newborn baby, my little boy, and I had a picture of him on my desk, because this is the first time I had a desk, so I put a picture of him on my desk. And every so often, somebody would walk by, and they would pick it up, and they would say, "Hey, do you remember this guy? Don't you think you should go home and see this guy?" Right? And at the time, I remember thinking, I felt I was lucky to be there, right? I felt like, everything I was doing was for that guy, right? It wasn't a case of, you know, I wanted him to grow up and have a so-so life. I wanted him to grow up and have a great life. I wanted to have more for the family. You know, I wanted to be able to make something of myself. So I worked those hours, right? And sometimes I have to remind myself that for many years, my goal was to be able to work from home, or to be able to set my own schedule, to be able to not have to ask for permission to go to a school play, or a, you know, to go see my kids do something, right? To say, oh, can I please get this afternoon off because whatever, and, you know, hat in hand, you know, or, you know, even having a boss is just, you kind of forget how bad it is, right? Just where you have this big chunk of your day doing something that you probably don't want to do. You know, not to belittle it, because I had, you know, a job for many years, and, you know, and a lot of the time, and one of the big things that got me to change was not because I'd made enough money to do it. It was more just taking that leap of faith to do it. It was, you know, it was deciding, if I don't do this, I'm never going to do it. The time is never going to be right. So now I'm in the situation where I have clients, and I have client responsibilities and deadlines, but I'm able to set my own schedule, and that's like a big, huge plus, and that's something I wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't work hard earlier. But back then, everyone was saying, well, if you just get a job locally, you know, work at the bank. I mean, I don't mean like an investment bank. I mean like the local, you know, as a teller or something. You know, if you work at the bank. By the way, I would have been made redundant by now because they all keep closing, right? Or if you work at the, you know, work at the factory, or work, you know, something local, then you'll be able to have all that time for your kids. But then, you know, the income would have stayed the same, right? I would be, you know, I think there's always, you know, if you don't know what to do, all you have to do is follow everybody else, and then you'll get by. But if you want to do something extraordinary, then you have to go off the map, you know, and just kind of figure things out. And the hard bit about it is it's so uncertain. You never know how things are going to go. Even now, you know, I say this all the time. I don't know if next year I'm going to be homeless or whatever, right? But so far, so good. I have to rely on my wits. I have to rely on the fact that, you know, I know how to handle things when they come up. I know how to handle problems, and I didn't at the beginning, right? It's like I said, it's like raising kids, right? When you have a kid, you think, there's no way I could be a parent because I don't know how to raise a teenager, right? Whatever, you know, it's like way down the road. You become the person you need to be when the problems arise, right? And you stumble and fall and learn the same as everybody else, right? So anyway, this is a few thoughts for today. It's easy to belittle hard work. It's also easy to make a big thing of it. You know, somebody who works, you know, 16 hours a day can say, you know, I'm a hard worker, I work 16 hours a day. But it's not so much what the time they spend, but what they do. I mean, the same with apps. You know, if you can do a really good app in half the time somebody else could, that doesn't mean you're any less. You know, that just means, yeah, maybe you're more effective. But anyway, those are just my ideas for today. Let me know what you guys think. You know, it's you know, work is such a difficult thing. I've said this before, and I honestly believe it. We are born into a world where you're expected to work 40 hours of every week. You're expected to work 5 out of your given 7 days of the week just to live. And I just think that's just not right. That's not the way that human beings should live. Anyway, but, you know, I work 7 days a week sometimes, so, you know, who am I to talk? Anyway, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.